All right, we are live and recording. All right, welcome everybody to the Money Multiplier. This is going to blow your mind. Some of you may have seen this, some of you may not have seen this, but all I can tell you is what you're going to see is something that I saw back in 2015, and it literally completely changed my mind. But when I saw it, I didn't believe it. And let me ask you all a question. How many of you have ever heard the expression, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? Most people, if I could see your hands, you guys would raise your hands. We've heard that. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But let me ask you this. How many of you have ever wanted more money for pretty much anything at all? Anything at all? If you said yes, or you're thinking yes, then you are in the right place, because tonight I'm going to share with you a little known but powerful wealth strategy that will completely change your financial future. We're going to cover how you can keep control of your money, how you can build wealth, and how you can keep that money in your family by implying strategies of the wealthy. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about your money, we're going to talk about your wealth, and we're going to talk about how you can live like the wealthy using their own techniques. And these techniques can work to pay off debt, expenses, overhead, and recycle and recapture that money just like the banks do. Now, that's really important. I want you to focus in on that. Recycle and recapture. That's such a key word, and we're going to hear that over and over throughout tonight's training, and we want to mimic what banks do. This is going to be some out-of-the-box thinking. That's the first and foremost thing I need you to understand. This isn't stuff that you've heard before. This is stuff that you may have known about, but you've never heard people talking about this, and there's a good reason why, which I'll cover later. So hold those questions, and I challenge you to keep an open mind tonight. I'm not selling anything. I'm only teaching you and educating you. So if you're here to buy something, well, I don't know what to tell you because I don't have anything to sell. Matter of fact, the next slide I'll show you, next couple slides, I'll give you something. You can get a couple books if you want to read more about this. But as I go through this webinar, I said this once, but we just had a couple more people join on here. Actually, let me take a second here and make sure that everybody gets admitted. There we go. So now everybody can kind of jump in. So as we go through this webinar, you're definitely going to have questions. And what I urge you to do is type your questions in the chat group, the group chat. So if all of you can just take 2 seconds, just look at the group chat. Any questions you have, just type them in there. Andrew will answer them, and anything that he can't answer, I will address after we're done with this. I'll make sure that everybody's questions are done. So I know a lot of you know who I am. I know a lot of you have followed me on Facebook, and thank you all so very much. I am honored and blessed to have all of you as friends, whether actual friends or just friends through a computer. It's all the same thing. We're all here to help one another. But what I always like to do is I like to start this off just by telling you a little bit about my backstory. You see, I didn't come from money. Not at all. I grew up in a lower middle class family. And, my dad, I love him very much, but growing up, my dad was an alcoholic, and he did beat that disease. Now he's no longer drinking. So, big round of applause for my dad. He beat one of the hardest things in the world to beat. But, my mom had to raise me. And it was a huge struggle for her. And that struggle, I know it's not the norm for everybody, but how many of you have ever had a tough time? How many of you have ever known somebody who has struggled financially? That's how I grew up. And even though I didn't have much, I always wanted to be more. Now, let me ask you this. How many of you have ever wanted to be more? How many of you have ever wanted more, period? That's awesome, because we all have wanted more. And that's just what I did growing up. I always wanted to be more, and I was willing to hustle. I was willing to do what the other people were unwilling to do, just like all of you. So I got a bunch of people on here, and I'm truly honored that you're here, but I was just like all of you. I was willing to hustle. You are also willing to hustle because you're here. You're willing to learn something new, and you know what? You're part of my 5% group. My 5% group are the people that want more out of life, just like you. See, the other 95%, they're not here. They're at the bar, they're home, they're watching TV, they're doing something else, but they're not here. You are. So pat yourself on the back, because that is the first sign of success right there, because you're willing to invest your time. So in 2004, I went on and I became a professional snowboarder. It was a huge dream of mine. That was the biggest thing I ever wanted out of life at that point, and I did it. And I did it living here in little old Buffalo, New York. But not only that, I co-founded a chain of retail stores called Fat Man Board Shops. They were lifestyle stores. I loved it. But even after those 2 major victories that I did, I still wanted more. I wanted more. And, I was always drawn to money. I was always drawn to finance because I think it's because I didn't have any growing up, but I really think what it was is that dumb movie, that movie Wall Street. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if you haven't, you should watch it. That kind of catapulted me into wanting to learn more about finance. And I dove in. I started reading books. I started studying, and I became a financial advisor. And I excelled quickly. I got all my certifications, got all my licenses, and I became a top performing financial advisor. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And by 2008, I was crushing it. Literally, I was a top advisor. I was managing millions and millions and millions of dollars for some major firms. I felt like I was on top of the world. I was flipping a couple houses because why not? I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just, demo day was the best day of that. Flipping a couple houses and making a bunch of money. Life was good. And then I got my next big dream. My next big idea was I was going to buy a dilapidated building and I was going to convert it into a 3-unit strip mall. And that strip mall was going to be the home to my Fat Man stores. And, that was great. What a brilliant idea, because now I'd be basically owning the building, getting the rents back, and recapturing those rents. We're going to keep talking that word. But did you guys hear when I said I did that? Did you hear the time? 2008, the Great Recession had just kicked off, and I was $360,000 in debt into this building. And just like, like a big storm hitting, I got hit by a Mack truck. I got hit literally by a Mack truck at full steam ahead. And that sucked. How many of you have ever gone one way? You pick a direction, you go one way, and then everything takes you the other direction, right? How many of you have ever had that happen where you thought things were going to go one way and they just go the complete opposite? Well, that was me. Despite my conventional financial knowledge and despite my conventional real estate knowledge, there were things I didn't know. And because I didn't know these things, I was literally one payment away from being completely bankrupt. And I'll never forget this period of time. I was so over leveraged. I was so under knowledge, and I kept doing the same thing over and over again that it came down to this one night. I had to come home. And up to this point, I was pretty self-sufficient, had a little ego, making a lot of money as a young guy, had all the things. And I had to come home and I had to do something I hadn't had to do in a long time. See, my girlfriend had just moved into my house, Larissa. She's now my wife. She just moved in, and I had to look her in the eye and I had to say, sweetie, I need your help. I need your help paying the mortgage. I need your help paying the utilities. And by the way, we have to rent that bedroom out because I can't make it work. I can't make things work. I'm going to go bankrupt. Now, a lot of women would have been like, I'm out, peace out. She didn't. She must have really liked me because she ended up marrying me. And we got through that time, barely. And I was determined to make it. You see, I wasn't going to quit. And I knew the only way to fail was to quit. And that wasn't in my cards. Some of my friends were like, dude, you are determined. Other friends were like, man, you're freaking crazy. And you know what I did next? I did a crazy thing. See, Warren Buffett said back then, he said, buy low. And he says it still. So I started buying real estate. Because, it wasn't my fault the economy crashed. It wasn't my fault that I was in that situation. That was the economy, not my lack of knowledge. So everything was good. And I did that. I kept buying real estate until 2014. And you know what? A couple of years later, after that buying period, I was in trouble again. I was in trouble again. I kept doing the same thing and using the same conventional knowledge over and over that by 2014, I was living paycheck to paycheck again. It's like, you're here, you're up here, and then it's all gone. Then you're up here again, you think you got it, and then it's all gone again. And that was 2014. And in 2014, we had to make some hard decisions. We had to sell off all that real estate that I had bought. Pennies on the dollar, I bought some of that. And I had to sell it all off, all 36 units, but that wasn't the kicker. The kicker was me and Larissa had to sell our dream house, and that sucked. You can only imagine how I was feeling. I was devastated. Literally, I just wanted to throw the towel in. This was that point in time where I didn't care about quitting and failing. I was just like, I'm done. And then in the mail, I got this magic postcard. You guys have all gotten one of these postcards. There's nothing magic about it at all. It was just a postcard saying, come to this real estate seminar and learn how to flip houses and make money and be wealthy. You've got these. You're probably all thinking the same thing a lot of other people were thinking. Man, don't you ever learn? But you know what? I don't ever learn. And that's the funny thing, because what I did is I did go to that seminar, but I didn't go for the reasons that you think I went. You're probably thinking I went because I wanted to learn how to flip houses and do all this stuff. No. You see, I was so humbled by my failures at that point that I didn't care about learning. I was humbled by my failures and I had nothing to lose. And when you went to this seminar, they were giving away a free iPod Shuffle. Yep. An iPod shuffle. That's why I went to this seminar, because I had nothing to lose, but I had an iPod shuffle to gain out of the deal. So I went day one, nothing special. Day two, I was blown away. Day two, everything changed. And here's what changed. You see, I didn't learn a ton of new stuff. I learned one new thing. What I learned is I learned what the wealthy were doing, what the successful real estate investors were doing, and what the elite guys were doing was the complete opposite of what I was doing. And I was like, wait a second. I'm a financial advisor and I don't know this stuff. How do I not know this stuff? But you know what I learned, guys? I learned that we don't learn this stuff. They don't teach this stuff. They don't teach you what you're about to learn tonight. That's the knowledge you need to seek out. And you know what? Right after that moment, that's when I made a conscious decision. I made a decision to stop the struggle of money, then broke, money, then broke. And you probably have known people, right, that have had money and then it's gone. And they get money again and it's all gone. Well, that is, what I learned, it's not about the money. The problem isn't the money. The problem isn't the economy. The problem is the misinformation that we're given. You see, that's the problem. The good information, the knowledge that we need, that's what's lacking. And that's what keeps us on the hamster wheel. And, at that point, I dove in. I spent a bunch of money getting coached, hiring mentors that I couldn't afford, charging up credit cards to learn from the best. And at that point, I started learning the secrets of the wealthy. I started learning from people that had done it, people that had failed and climbed back out and knew how to tell me how to do this. And that's when my life started to change. That's when I got off the financial hamster wheel. And that's what brings me here today. A lot's changed. A lot has changed. And this concept that you're going to see tonight, this secret of the wealthy that you're going to learn tonight, this is one of the biggest things that changed my life. But tonight, what did I tell everybody I was going to teach you? I'm going to teach you how to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. That's what we're going to do. So let's go on to the next one. So I told you that there's nothing to buy tonight. I am not selling anything, but some people do these and they just want to buy something. So here you go, folks. Here's 3 things that you can buy. 3 great books. Second Chance by Robert Kiyosaki. The reason I put this book up there is not because I'm trying to sell Robert's book, but because Robert talks about what you're going to hear about tonight in that book. You guys might know of this guy, Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins talks about this stuff too in that book, Money, Mastering the Game. And my favorite book, and the one I highly recommend right there, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. That is a must-have, a must-buy. So if you guys want them, I'm sure they're available on Google or Amazon. There you go. My buddy, Warren Buffett, right here, this guy. If poor people would just do what rich people would do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Now, that sounds cliche, but you know what? You're going to find out when you're done with today that is the God's honest truth right there. So I just wanted to throw that up because I got to get you guys to start thinking different. And speaking of thinking different, let's talk a little bit about your learning process. Let's talk about your upbringing. See, all of us probably have something in common. Most all of us, when we were kids, we learned how to ride a bicycle, right? Started off with our parents or just us riding a bike with training wheels. Then we took the training wheels off and then we were riding it and we probably fell and scratched, got bumps, bruises. And then we learned though, and we got better and better. And eventually some of us went on to doing 360s and riding wheelies, and you get the drift, but you learned how to ride a bicycle and it wasn't easy. And today, all of us can probably jump on a bicycle and we can ride that bike. Kids are no different. Kids learn so quickly. But what if you had to learn how to ride a bicycle that every time you turn the handlebars to the right, the bike goes to the left. And every time you turn the handlebars to the left, the bike goes to the right. Could you ride that bike? Could you ride that bike if it did the complete opposite of everything you've learned your entire life? Well, I will give you the answer. The answer is no. You more than likely could not ride that bike. You just couldn't. The pattern in everything you've learned your entire life would kick in and it would make it hard and you would fall. But you would eventually be able to do that if you stayed with it. If you kept trying to learn how to ride that bike and you kept going at it, eventually you would do it. It is not impossible. And you know what? For any of you, write this down. For any of you that want to see this, because there's a really cool video on Google that you can do. It's called the backwards bicycle. Check that video out. You guys will love it. But here's what I'm getting at. When you learn something one way, it's really hard for you to change. And the same is exactly true for money. See, since you were little, you've been trained how to think about money. But what would happen if I told you that everything you were taught is wrong? What would happen? Well, actually, let me go to this. It would be super difficult for you to change to a new way of thinking, wouldn't it? It would be really hard. Everything you've learned your whole life, And I'm going to tell you it's something different. I'm going to tell you that it's not what it seems. It's all kind of the big lie. You would think that I'm crazy, or maybe you'd be intrigued, which I hope you are, because it is not impossible to change your way of thinking. But to do everything I'm going to show you how to do tonight, you only have to change one thing in your life. Just one. That's it. You have to change one thing. You have to learn to ride the bike backwards. You have to learn to ride that bike, which means you have to learn to change your thought process from everything you've learned. So let's get into that and let's talk a little bit about that. So first and foremost, how does your money flow? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So first off, are your dollars worth more today than they are in the future? Is a dollar worth more today than it is in the future? Think about that. How many candy bars could you have bought with $1 20 years ago? A lot, right? A lot more than you can today. All right, next, let's talk about taxes. Do taxes go up or down? Well, they go up. And if they don't go up, they find more crap to tax us on, right? Well, what's better, paying taxes on the seed or the harvest? Silly question, but you get the drift. The seed, it's always better to pay taxes on the seed. Next. So we've been taught and trained our entire life to start saving for retirement. I know my grandparents always used to tell me, you got to save for retirement. You don't want to be working the rest of your life. Make changes, start early, put money into retirement accounts, 401ks and IRAs, right? That's what we were trained and taught. And what you're doing is you are putting money away. So you're putting your good dollars away today. And later, they're going to pay us back with weaker dollars. I want you to think about that. You're putting your good dollars away today, dollars that you could use today. You're putting them away so that you can use those weaker dollars later in this thing called retirement, this fake reality that we've been taught about called the retirement game. You're compounding the tax as well because there's always going to be tax. It's always going to be there. So you're going to pay tax on a higher amount because that large amount that your 401k or IRA has grown to, they're going to tax you on all of that. That doesn't sound so good. All right. So the next question I would ask you is, are you going to wait 5, 10, 20 years to drive the car you buy today? Are you going to wait 5, 10, 20 years to live in the house that you bought today? Are you going to wait 5, 10, 20 years to drink the milk that you just bought or to eat the bread that you just bought? No, you're not going to wait 20 years. You're not going to put the bread in the freezer and then take it out 20 years later and eat it, are you? It wouldn't taste really good. It would be super freezer burned. You wouldn't like it. I want to teach you how to use your good dollars today, and I want to teach you how to pay everybody back with weaker dollars later. I want to teach you that because that's what banks do. You've been trained your whole life to save your dollars now and use weaker dollars later. And we never thought anything about that. But let's just say, some of you might be thinking about that 401k. You're thinking about, I get a match. You get a match, right? Great. That's awesome. And I'm a huge proponent of that. It's the world I came from. Being a financial advisor for 16 years, I set 401ks up. And a match is free money. But I want you to think about this. If you went to a store and you bought a loaf of bread, and you came back and you put that loaf of bread in the freezer for 20 years from today, or however long it is till you get to retirement. And then you go out, you go back in that freezer, okay, 10, 20, 30 years later, and you pull that bread out. But now you've got 2 loaves of bread. But they're both freezer burned. They both won't taste very good. That's kind of how you have to look at that. Use your good dollars today and pay them back with weaker dollars later. Now, this is one of my most pivotal things in this whole thing, and I got to have you pay attention. So what we're going to talk about is how your money flows. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend you're going to go buy a car for $25,000. Now, don't get hung up on the price of the car. I'm just demonstrating a concept, so the price is irrelevant. I don't care whether you buy a Ford Focus or a Maserati. We just add some zeros, change some numbers. It doesn't matter. And let's assume that you're going to save your money in your local conventional bank. All right, so I'm going to play your local banker, Banker Chris. That sounds pretty darn good, doesn't it? Banker Chris, I like that. So I'm going to be your banker, Banker Chris today. And let's assume that you've got $25,000 in the bank. Okay, the bank where I'm the banker, and you're going to make 4% on that bank, that deposit. Your 25 grand is going to grow at 4% interest. Now, I know most of you are probably thinking, I'm not getting 4%. And you know what? You're not. There's not any banks paying 4%, are there? This is just a number, just an example. But if you know a bank that's paying 4% or more, please let me know in a private message because we got to talk because I haven't found one yet. All right, so that's a really good bank, right, at 4%. And you come into the bank and you say, Chris, Banker Chris, I got to take $25,000 out to buy a car. So I'm going to take that $25,000 out of the bank that's earning 4%, and I'm going to pay cash for a car. And I say, whoa, no, 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 don't do that. Instead, let me give you a loan. Let me give you a loan for $25,000 to buy that car, and I'll charge you 6% interest on that loan. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use your bank account as collateral for a period of 5 years, right? So I'm just going to collateralize that loan for 5 years, 60 months, 5 years. But our bank is going to pay you more money on that $25,000 that's earning 4% than you're going to pay us on that loan that you're paying 6% on, right? That's what's going to happen. Is that even possible? Can you earn 4 and make more if you're paying 6? Can you earn 4% and make more money earning 4% when you're paying 6%? Is that even possible? Well, yeah. The banker's telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. You will make more money over 5 years earning 4% on that $25,000 that's sitting in the bank while you're paying the 6% on the car loan over the same time frame. And it doesn't matter whether you do it for 3 years, whether you do it for 5 years or 6 years. I'm just assuming a 5-year loan because that's what most car loans are, right? Is that true? And is it even possible? Can you make more paying 6 when you're making 4? Well, let's talk about that. You probably are saying no. You're probably saying, I can't. How can I earn more when I'm paying 6 and I'm only making 4? That's a 2% difference. So you're just doing the simple math. And I'm telling you that's not the case. And here's why. You see, the loan that I made you for $25,000, when you're paying that down, you're paying it down on a declining balance. So you're paying me $483.32 every payment. Some of that's principal, and you're paying that loan down. Now, the amount you pay over the 60 months is going to be about $29,000. That's how much money you're going to pay us on that 6% loan that we made you for 60 months. Now, over on the other side, your money's been sitting there growing. The $25,000 has been growing at 4%. But that 4%, your money's been growing on a compounding basis. Your money's been going up. So your future value on that money is $30,525. Now, I don't know where all of you are from, but I want you to think about this. Unless you do math different wherever you're from than we do here in Buffalo, 30,000 is more than 28,999. And again, the reason is the car balance is going down, the money balance is going up. It's that simple. However, our minds are not trained that way. We've been trained not to think that way. And we got to start thinking how money really works. The exercise proves to you that you can make money all day long, paying 6% interest while earning 4%. All right, moving on. Oh, actually, let me go back real quick. I missed that. So like I said, we just did this. So right there, just as the raw math, you made 1526. But did you really make 1526? Yeah, because that's the difference between 30,000 and 29,000. That's 1526. But you also got the car. You got the car free and clear. But we're not done with the car thing. I don't want you to think that's the car example. So let's get more into this. The money multiplier method is what we're going to talk about today. Okay, and I'm going to show you a life-changing method that will show you how to use money just like the banks do and just like the wealthy do. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about the machine. The machine is the thing that keeps your money flowing, that keeps your money in motion. But then we're going to talk about the method. Okay, the method to doing this, and the first thing I need you to understand about the method is this is not a sprint. Life is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You've heard that before, nor is this. We're not going to talk about a sprint. So this isn't a quick fix. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It's a marathon. And that is what it's going to take. It's going to take some time to fully build this system. But then we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic. Everybody's favorite topic is becoming a millionaire. But why just a millionaire? That's kind of just a weak name these days. Let's become multimillionaires. Let me show you how the wealthy do it and how to mimic what the banks do. But first, before I can show you that, we got to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Okay, I don't know about your room, but I'm looking at an 800-pound gorilla and it's right here. It's called the machine. So what is the machine? The machine is the thing you're going to use to build your wealth and the thing that you're going to use to keep your money in your family. And you know what it is? It's boring. It's a dividend-paying whole life policy from a mutually owned life insurance company. That's right. So I'm watching the numbers because usually at about this point, I start losing some participants. So you're probably saying, Chris, what the heck does whole life insurance have to do with me building my wealth, dude? Come on. You told me you're going to show me how to get all the money back for all the cars that I ever buy, drive, and own. And now we're talking about life insurance? Well, here's why. Okay. Why are we talking about life insurance? This is the exact reason why. It's because that's what the rich the elite and the wealthy do with money. You know, and if you don't believe me, I'm going to put some truth behind this because I believe in facts. You see, the number one purchaser in the world of whole life insurance is banks. Conventional banks are the number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world. And if you don't believe that, we're going to prove that in a bit. But I want you to think about how many times when you walk into a bank, you see a vice president. How many vice presidents do banks have? Lots. And there's a very specific reason why that I'll get into hopefully in a little bit. And if I forget, ask me in the end. They own more whole life insurance than they own in land and buildings combined. And why is that? Why would banks do this? Is it because they're stupid? Well, I don't know. Is it because they're stupid or is it because they know something the rest of us don't? Well, let me tell you something. It's because they know something the rest of us don't. I promise you that's the reason. So this isn't something I invented. What you're going to see tonight, this strategy, this method has been around for 200 years. We're not reinventing the wheel here, folks. We're not even putting a new spoke in the wheel. We're just spinning it so that the average people like you and I, so that all of us can understand what the wealthy do and what they make so complex and also what they don't want us to know. Banks don't want you to know this, and you'll see why in a moment. But it's been around over 200 years, and our tax code has only been around since 1913. So think about one other thing here. This has been around 200 years, and it was created by the wealthy. Okay, and used by the banks. Then the tax code came out. Who wrote the tax code? Well, bankers, wealthy people, right? They wrote the tax code. So ding, ding, ding. That's going to be some of the things you're going to hear about with the tax advantages of what this is. But here's the thing. You don't believe what I'm telling you? I want you to do this. Write this down. BOLI, B-O-L-I. Bank-owned life insurance. You see, when I was an advisor selling life insurance back in the day, selling life insurance for a death benefit, I knew about this thing called BOLI. I knew about the guys that sold BOLI, and they made tons of money because what they did is they were the ones providing banks with this life insurance. But what I didn't know is I didn't know that that could be used by individuals. I didn't know that what the banks did and what the companies did, because BOLI and COLI, company-owned life insurance, has been a thing for over 200 years. Google that, and what you're going to find is you're going to find hundreds of pages. Hundreds of pages, if you Google BOLI, will come up of how much life insurance, how much whole life insurance conventional banks own. And all I'm going to show you how to do, all we're going to do, and all I've been doing, is we're going to mimic what they do. That's it. Inside your whole life policy, okay, the machine, inside that machine, your guaranteed growth rate is 4%. There was no surprise why I was telling you about a bank that pays you 4%, but you were probably like, there's no bank that pays 4%, Chris. I don't know what you're smoking, man. That's not legal in New York. And you're right, it's not yet, but it will be. But everywhere else in the country, that stuff is legal, and I'm not smoking anything, and I don't smoke anything. But this bank, your whole life policy pays you 4%. And then that little loan that I talked about, that loan that we're going to give, that our bank is going to give you, and they're just going to hold collateral for the money that you have in your bank, that is the max loan interest that a bank will charge. That a bank will charge, that the life insurance company will charge for issuing you a loan. So we're going to get off the machine real quick, and we're going to go a little bit into this because this is very critical that you understand this. I just told you what banks do. I told you what the wealthy do, what the elite do, and you're probably still in kind of disbelief of like why and how and whole life insurance. Well, we're going to get into that, but here's how banks work. And many of you are going to relate really well to this, but here's how a bank works. You see, what you do is you go to the bank and you deposit money. Now, I'm a real estate investor, and let's just assume I flipped a house, a really good house, and I deposit 100 grand in the bank. And the bank, my bank, pays me 4%. And remember, you got to find one of those really good banks because not many of them pay 4%. And if you know about one, again, I said it already, but let me know. I need a bank paying 4% outside of mine, but there isn't any, so we're not going to find any. So here's what the bank does. This is what the banks are master of. The bank then takes that money and loans that money back to you, because banks have to keep money in motion, and the bank makes your money into an asset by loaning it out. See, when we take a loan, that loan that we take, that loan is a liability. But when a bank makes a loan, that is an asset to the bank. Now, the deposit that you made into the bank, that's a liability. That's a liability on the bank's balance sheet, but the loans that they make, those are assets. So I want you to think about that too. How is a loan an asset? So they're going to loan us that money for that dream house that I want to buy, right? So I'm going to buy a house at 7%, or you're going to buy a house, and that mortgage is going to be 7%. Don't get wrapped up in the numbers. They're just stupid concepts and just examples. I don't care if that number is 6. I don't care if your mortgage is 3 or 4, which it's not anymore. But if it was, these are just numbers. So the bank makes that loan for 7% so you can buy your house. And all money is, I want you to understand something about money. All money is a means of exchange. That's it. Nothing more. Money for house, house for money. Or I'm sorry, money for the house. Yeah, house for money. Money for bread, bread for money. Money for car, car for money. That's all. It's a means of exchange. That's all money is. So don't get wrapped up into it. It's so simple. So they give you a loan. And then what you do is you pay that seller the money for the house. The seller then deposits the money back in the bank. Genius, right? That's just what we do. We deposit that money back in the bank. But then we get super excited and we go out there and we buy one of those BMW M3s. Pretty sweet car. You notice a couple M3 like things here. I like those cars. And they make us a car loan rate 8%. So then we get the loan from the bank at 8%. We then pay the car dealership. Car dealership does what? They deposit the money back into the bank. Then our spouse wants to remodel the house. They want to remodel the kitchen because our kitchen's outdated. So we go and we take a house remodeling loan, or we take a home equity line of credit. And let's just assume that's 9%. So we take a loan out for that house remodel. We then pay the contractors. The contractors, some of them, not all, deposit the money back in the bank. If you got some good contractors, they do. The other ones, who knows what they do with it. But anyway, no disrespect to contractors. This is just the flow of money. Then we're having a good old time. We got that M3. We got that dream house. Everything's going good. Our bank is paying us 4%. And we decide to take a trip to Las Vegas and things don't go so well. We pulled that credit card out one too many times. And don't worry, folks, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So no worries. But now we got to do a debt consolidation loan in the credit. Your credit's been dinged a couple times. You bought a house. You bought a car. You took a home equity line of credit. Every time they took our credit, they pulled our credit. Those are debt to income ratio things, right? So now our credit's not as good. So we got to pay 12%. We pay those credit cards off and that money goes back into the bank. That's the flow of money. You notice one thing. I want you to look at all of these transactions. Who is in control of these transactions? Who? The bank. The bank is in control of all of these transactions. They're constantly moving money. They're constantly making money. That's what banks do. They keep money in motion and they keep making money over and over and over again. So now let's relook at this, right? So we're making 4%. We're pretty psyched, but then we take a loan out, a mortgage, and we're getting 4% and the bank's charging us 7%. So the bank's netting 3%. Cool. Bank has to make a little bit of money, right? Great. So next thing we do is we go get that BMW M3 and the bank charges us 8%. So 8% minus the 4% that we're getting, that's 4% the bank makes. All right. Bank's making a little bit of money, but it's moving money around. Remember, it's not the bank's money. It's our money. Then we take a home equity line of credit out. We remodel that kitchen. The wife gets exactly what she wants, or the husband gets that bar in the basement or that nice fancy garage remodel. But that's 9%. So we got the 9% loan minus 4%. That's 5% the bank's making. And we can keep going on and on. So then contractors, and then the debt consolidation, 12 minus 4 is 8. So at the end of the day, we're making 4% and the bank is making how much? If we add all those up, bank's making 20%, right? The bank took our money, loaned our money out, and they made 20% on our money. That's not a bad day in the office. How many of you would be cool making 20% on someone else's money? Sign me up. Seriously, like, where do I go? Where do I stand in line? How long is the line going to be? Do I need to bring a tent? Do I need to bring food? Like, I'm there. Count me in. 20% using someone else's money. Sweet. I'm in. But here's the thing, guys. The bank didn't make 20%. The bank made 500+%. The bank made 500% more than you did. And I know that doesn't make sense. You're like, no, Chris, simple math. But again, remember I told you the backward bicycle, you got to start thinking different. How much risk, first off, before we go into explaining that, how much risk did the bank take to lend that money out? Well, the bank did underwriting on all those, but the bank didn't take a whole lot of risk, right? They only took a little bit of risk by using your money on their transactions. That is how banks work. But now what I'm going to do is really tick you guys off. See, the bank didn't make 20%. The bank makes 400 to 1,300%. 400 to 1,300 bucks, or 400 to 1,300% on the money that you leave there. That's what they do. That's how they make money. And if you don't believe me, here's the thing. Write this down or just ask me for the recording of this. Go to BauerFinancial.com. Pull up any bank you want, KeyBank, whatever bank you want, doesn't matter, and get their annual report from any year, this year, last year, 20 years ago. That report will show you how much the banks actually make on the money you leave there. And there isn't a bank out there that made less than 400% annually, period. You don't believe me? do your own research and check it out because I'm right. And that is exactly what it are. On any main corner in any town in the United States, what do you see? What's on every main corner of every town, city in the United States? A bank. A bank. And they're always on the nicest property, right? They're the nicest property, the nicest buildings. It's because we're paying for it. We're paying for it. Every day I go into my bank and every day there's some sort of giveaway, right? I deposit money. I'm still a victim. I deposit money in the bank and every day I go there and I get something for free. Some days it's a coffee mug. Some days it's coffee. But every day I go there and I make my deposit. Right by where I make that deposit is a little cup full of suckers. And I love suckers. I love them. I've loved them since a kid. I can pick whatever flavor I want. I want grape. I want cherry. I want lime. Whatever flavor I want. And I take that and I get to enjoy that. But then I unwrap that sucker. And what does that wrapper say? Now your banks might be different, but you know what mine says? And I can prove it. I'm going to take a picture tomorrow when I go there. It says Dum Dums. Dum Dums. Really? What are you guys trying to say? Huh? You trying to say that I'm a dummy? Am I the sucker here? Yep. Darn right I am. And if you go to the bank for a loan, they're going to check your credit report every single time. Every single time they're going to check your credit. And that's going to hurt your credit score. And then what they're going to do is they're going to charge you a higher credit or higher interest rate based on your lower credit score. And then you take a loan out. And as you take all those loans out, you're going to start hitting your debt to income ratio, which is going to put you in a higher risk class. So they're going to raise the interest rate. Man, guys, that's smart. You don't think banks are smart? That's freaking genius. These people need money. Let's just keep giving them money. And every time they need money, we'll ding their credit so that every time they come back, we can charge them a little bit more. And we'll just give them those dum-dums. And they won't even know any different, right? Yeah, sweet. High five. Awesome. That's banks. If your bank's a really good one like Brent's is, Brent's wife goes to the bank once a month on the day when they give away free wine. Hey, take advantage of it, right? Because we got to try to turn those banks into something fun. And if you want some dum-dums, go get them. Otherwise, go there every time they give you free wine. But here's the deal. If you don't like what I just told you, this bank that I'm going to show you tonight, the bank that we've been talking about, that machine, when you take a loan from your personal bank, that bank paying you 4% guaranteed interest, your credit score is not going to be touched. Your credit score is not even going to be looked at. Matter of fact, no one's going to give a crap. No one's going to ask you what you're using the money for. You just take it. All right. Let's talk about the annual pattern of spending. This is where I'm going to bring it home. I'm going to put the rubber to the road right now. So this is how most people spend their money. Pay attention to this. This is so important. 20 cents of every dollar is spent on automobiles. That's payments, gas, upkeep. 20 cents of every single dollar. 30 cents of every dollar is spent on housing, the housing you live in, whether it's a rent, whether it's a house, your utilities, all that good stuff. 40 cents of every single dollar that you spend is spent on other things. Entertainment, food, dinners, travel, all the other things that you spend money on. 40 cents. 90 cents of every dollar goes to other people. Banks, credit card companies, other people get 90% of every dollar. If you add those up, it's 90 cents. 10% goes to savings. But let's really dissect this. As of about 18 months ago, the average savings rate in the United States was 5 to 6%. That means that 5 cents to 6 cents of every dollar is going to savings. Doesn't seem like enough, right? But that's a fact. That's what it is. And that's since the recession. Prior to the recession, that savings number, that was a negative number, guys. Most financial advisors, when I was a financial advisor, let me tell you something you already know, but this is kind of the truth of it, right? Most financial advisors want to talk to you about your money you're saving. How much more can you save? How much are you saving now? Where's that money going? Saving, saving, saving. And to get a higher return on what you're saving, that usually involves taking higher risk. Now, how many of you want to take more risk to make more money? Do you guys really want to do that? Do you want to take more risk to make more money? Because I don't. I'm sick of risk. And right now we're at a high point in the market. And I'm pretty freaking scared of what's coming next. So tonight I'm not going to talk to you about any of your savings, period. We're not going to talk about savings at all. Rather, we're going to talk about your spendings. That's it. We're just going to talk about your spendings. And I want to take some of that money you're spending, and I want to show you how to move that money, that's spending, that money you're giving to other people, that 90 cents. I want to show you how to take some of that money and move it into your savings category without changing your cash flow, without losing control of your money, without taking on any more risk, and without working any more freaking hours. Does that sound good? Good. Does that sound good? Good. All right, that's a powerful one. Now let's talk about what would happen if we moved all the interest you're paying into your savings. But let me do that a little bit more tactful, right? So this is right now what you're saving. This is assuming you save 10 cents of every dollar. On average, people are spending 20 cents of every dollar on their cars, right? On their vehicles. What I want you to do is tonight, I'm going to show you how to move just 5 cents of that 20. 5 cents of that 20 cents you're spending on automobiles, which is the interest you're paying to the bank. I just want to show you how to move that 5 cents to your savings. Do you guys realize that just by moving 5 cents of every 20 cents you're spending on your automobiles to your savings increases your savings rate by 50%? Let's talk interest. Even if you pay cash for a car, and I hear this all the time, yeah, Chris, but hey, man, I pay cash for my cars. I'm the smart one, man. I got the money in the bank. I'm going to pay cash for the car. Great. Pat yourself on the back. Let's talk. You take 20 grand out of your bank, okay, and you take that money to your car dealership, because remember, money's just an exchange. You exchange money for the car. Car dealership gives you the car. You give the car dealership the money. You got yourself a fancy car, which is the worst investment you can buy, but who cares? We're talking cars. We like cars. You've given up the earning power, the interest on that $20,000 by using that money for the car. That's what you did. But let's go one step further. You're either doing one of two things when you buy a car. You're either making one large payment or you're making 25 smaller payments, right? It's either $25,000 for that car we talked about earlier or $1,000 a month for 25 months. It only works one of two ways. What you also just did by paying cash for the car is you gave up all of the interest that you could have earned on that $25,000 plus, and this is the worst part, screw giving up the money, plus that money's gone from your family forever. Never going to come back. Never. You got a car, and that car will depreciate quickly. You're also going to have to save for another car. Cars don't last forever, guys, right? They last, 5 years, 10 years? Most of us are trading in our leases in 3 years. That's just the cycle. People spend, now let's move on from that. I get caught up in the car thing. Okay, people spend an average of roughly 30 cents of every dollar on housing, okay? That's what we spend. 30 cents of every dollar goes to housing, of which 25 cents of that 30 is interest. 25 cents of that is interest. What if we moved 25 cents to our savings? What would that do? That'd be pretty freaking cool. 25 cents of every 30 cents that we're spending on housing is going to interest if you've got a mortgage. And all I'm doing is I'm going to show you how to move that to your savings. It would make a massive difference. So if you own a house, all the money goes to your mortgage company. And you guys know this. I don't need to tell you this, but let's just prove it. On your most recent mortgage statement, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at that. I'd like you to look at the interest portion of your total payment. Is it 5%? Is your interest portion 5%? Because, right, most mortgages are what, 5% right now, maybe 6%? You got a mortgage and the bank's like, hey, introductory rate, it's awesome. It's 5% right now. Get them before they're gone. Get that 5% mortgage. Yeah, right? But when you get your statement, you're like, man, you're taking that paper and you're like, hey, what the hell? You know, that's not 5%. No, it's a lot more than that. As a matter of fact, over 80% of your total house payment on your total mortgage payment in the first 7 years of your loan goes toward interest. You already know this. I'm just pointing out the obvious. How long do most people stay in their house? How long do most people stay in their house? 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years is the average amount of time that people stay in your house. If you're like me and my wife, we don't even make it to that. Okay? 5 to 7 years. But some people are like, no, Chris, we stay in our house longer than 5 years. We're in the 9th year. We're in the 15th year. My next question would be, did you ever refinance that house? Oh yeah, we did. We did that. When was that? Well, it might've been year 6 we refinanced, and then we refinanced it again. Bingo, ding, 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 same thing. We get hung up on the rate. Okay, we get hung up on the rate, it's not about the interest rate, folks. It's not about the 5%, the mortgage rate, whatever. It's about the volume of interest you're paying in the first 7 years. That's the game. That's how they got us tricked. It's freaking genius. Like, don't get mad. Like, learn from that. Like, get smart. Think, how smart were the banks when they came up with this? Guys, everybody's going to move every 7 years. So let's front load all the interest in the first 7 years so we get all of our money so that we can travel on private jets, do all the fun things. Don't be haters, folks. Don't be haters. Learn. If you're renting, 100% of all that money goes out the door and it's never going to be seen again. So that's why you should get into real estate. Get yourself some rentals, because 100% of people's money is gone out the door going to you for the rental that you just provided them. Anyway, we're not here to talk about real estate. I'm just trying to get you guys to think about what's really going on here, right? And last but not least, let's talk a little bit about the 40 cents of every dollar that we spend on living expenses, all those extra things. Now, chances are Out of that 40 cents you spend, some of that's going on a credit card. And we're just going to assume that 5% of that, 5% or 5 cents, easier to use the 5 cents, 5 cents of that is going to go into your savings, right? That's what we're going to do because that's the interest you're paying. We are sending out 34 cents in interest in trying to save 10 cents, which makes it almost impossible, very difficult at best to get off the financial hamster wheel. Have you ever really thought about it or seen that, right? That's what's scary is that's what they got us tricked into. Okay. Some people call it the Illuminati, the big lie, whatever. That's just what it is. They're smarter than we are. So why get mad? Let's just do what they do. So let me show you how to get all the money back for all the products and services that you're buying right now. Would that be cool? But let's start with a car. Let's start with how to get all the money back for every car you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. You see that car right there? That's Eleanor. I don't know if you saw the movie, but that is my girl. That's the girl I want. I'm saving up. My bank is getting ready for her. See that? Look at those lines. Look at that rear end on that thing. That is a primed, worked out rear end. Anyway, back to the car. Yeah, so we're going to show you how to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. And you know what? All of you have your Eleanor, your dream car, or the car that you want. So I want you to visualize that right now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into this. Before we talk about that, we got to talk about the machine. And if I bought that car, if I had Eleanor sitting in my driveway, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the hood. I want to see that engine. I want to see what that thing looks like. And most people think of things like this. They think of premiums as being a payment. Right? That's what you think about. If you've got a premium, whether it be for, a premium going into your whole life or your life insurance, you think of that as a premium payment, a bill. I need you to start thinking of what we're talking about. These deposits into your whole life as a deposit. They are a premium deposit. They are not an expense. And I will prove it to you. Second thing people think about, oh, Chris, hey, awesome stuff, man. Love it. I'm going to peace out now because I'm too old. Folks, you've been trained too much the wrong way because we all think about life insurance, and the older we get, we can't buy life insurance, or the older we get, the less effective it is. Yeah, that's true if you're buying life insurance for a death benefit. But the last time I checked, and what we do here, we don't build life insurance. We don't build whole life policies for a death benefit. Matter of fact, we don't really care about the death benefit. I mean, it's there. I can't get rid of it. It's there. It will always be there, but we're not going to focus on that. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter how old you are. It doesn't. So just ignore them, ignore what you've been told, and ignore your age. It just doesn't make a difference. And lastly, the death benefit, we already talked about that. It's there. It's not something we're going to focus on. We are building a banking system, a banking policy, not a death benefit policy. So I want you to understand that everything I'm going to show you, everything we're going to talk about is to build a banking system, not a life insurance policy. I don't want you thinking about, oh, I'm going to buy this because I want the death benefit so that if I die, look, buy term insurance for that. I want you to change your life. And last time I checked, you buy a term policy, the only thing that's changing in your life is when you're dead, and it's changing someone else's life, which is great. Buy term for that. I'm going to show you how to create a banking system. And I'm never, ever going to tell you how much premium to put into your banking policy, ever. The system will work with $200 a month or $200,000 a month. It doesn't matter. The number, that is your number, and that is the only thing you need to understand because it's right. Let's get into this. All right, let's take a look at how the machine works. Let's take a look at how this machine works by seeing an example of how to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. And it's getting warm in here, so I'm going to shed the jacket real quick. So we're gonna get into this car thing here real quick. So I need you to follow. There's some numbers here. We've tried making this really simple. And in this example, what we have to assume is that you're going to plan to buy a car in the next 3 years. Okay. Can we do that? I don't know how many of you need to buy a car, or maybe you have a child that's going to need a car, or maybe a spouse that's going to need a car in the next 3 years. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to buy a car for $25,000 in the next 3 years. So here's what we got to do. So first and foremost, we got to start our banking system. And to start our banking system, we got to reallocate some funds into your new bank. Now, again, this is that point where I know I already told you we're going to focus on your spending, not your savings, but this is the only point in time when we're capitalizing the bank. We need to focus a little bit on what you're saving. So we got to take some money from this hand, and I know I'm small there, but I'm showing you my hand. Take money from this hand and put it in this hand. That's all we need to do. Just got to reallocate some money. And for this particular example, we're just going to use 10 grand. Don't get caught up on the number. It's just a number. And what we're going to do is every single year, we're going to make a premium deposit of $10,000 into the policy. Now, it doesn't matter whether you put 10 grand in one lump sum or you put money in every single month. It doesn't make a difference how you get the bank funded. It doesn't make a difference how you capitalize the bank. You just got to capitalize it. Now, at year 3, you're going to buy a car. for $25,000. So you buy that fancy car that you want. And again, I don't care if 25 is not enough to buy the car you want. We just got to add some numbers to that. All we got to do is change numbers and you can have your Maserati, your Ferrari, whatever you want. Eleanor for me. Then I want you to pay. I need you to start thinking like the bank. And we keep talking about that. We keep talking about being an honest banker. So here's the deal. If you owned a bank and your bank loaned you money to buy a car, you would pay your bank back, right? Because if you owned a bank and you never paid any of those loans back to your own bank, your bank would eventually go out of business. If you owned a grocery store and every day you went into your grocery store and you took food off the shelves and you never paid for that food and you just kept doing that, and then other people saw you doing it and they started doing that, your grocery store would go out of business. Again, I'm just trying to get you to think about like being an honest banker, because if you were going to buy a car, we already went over this. You can pay cash, you can take a loan, or you can lease it. So let's just assume you're going to take a loan from a bank to buy that new fancy car. You would have to pay that bank back, right? You'd have to pay them interest. And let's just assume it's for 5 years. So we're going to pay that bank back principal and interest on the 25. So what you have to do, because this is your bank, you own this bank, you have to pay your bank back. So what we're going to do is, this is just an example, $6,000, $500 a month, you're going to pay your bank back. Stay with me here. So we're going to pay our bank back so that at the end of the 7th year, we put $70,000 in, $10,000 per year for 7 years. We took and bought a car in year 3. And then in year 3, we started making payments back to our bank, monthly payments, car payments back to our bank. So we paid back $30,000. So $30,000 was paid back to your bank, right? So then what we did is we got 100 grand into the plan total. A total net injection of 100 grand, 70 grand in premium deposits, 30 grand in car repayments. We paid that car back, but then we bought a car. So our true net injection into our banking system is how much? $75,000. That's our true net injection. That's what we put into the policy. Now, I want you to focus on another number here, $67,881. Do you see that number? That's the amount of money that's in your bank in year 7, $67,000. Now, you put 75 in total. Now, you got a car. So you got a car already. The car's paid for, but you put 75,000 into the bank and you got 67,881. What does that mean? Well, that means that you got 91 cents of every dollar back on that first car that you bought. Let me ask you all a question. All of you have bought cars before and you have cars now. And if you have a car that's not a lease, how many of you in the 5th year got 91 cents of every dollar, or over 90% of all the money you spent on that car back? Have any of you done that? Maybe if you bought a collector car. But I didn't come into this today telling you that I was going to show you how to get 90% of your money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. So this is just your first car. You now have that car in the driveway. But you know what? Cars wear out. Cars wear out. And this is where it's going to get even better. So now we're going to go on years 8 through 12. Years 8 through 12. We're not going to put any more money in our bank. We're not. Now, I want you to be very, very clear about this. And I'm going to hit this hard later. I'm showing you that we're not putting any more money into the bank, and you don't have to at all. You don't have to put any more money into your bank, but I would tell you to never, ever, ever stop putting premium deposits in. And you might not have any idea why I just said that, but I will prove it to you later. And I'm not going to do it now. I always like to do it because I get excited, but we're not going to put any more money in. And I recommend you do that. Okay. Just make note. I recommend you don't ever stop putting money in. Now, year 8, we're going to buy another car. Another $25,000 car. Now we've got one car in the driveway. We just bought another car. So we bought that second car. Now what are we going to do? We're going to be an honest banker and we're going to pay our bank back $6,000 per year. That means we put in $30,000 net injection, right? $30,000 was what we put in. We repaid that car. Then we bought the car. So we got to take 25. So our true net injection is $5,000. So we put $5,000 in the next 5 years here, from years 8 through 12. Put 5 grand in. We've got 2 cars in the driveway, 2 fully paid cars. Hey, first car, in the 5th year, cars are worth some money in the 5th year. You could sell it, give it to your children, donate it to a charity. Doesn't matter. Heck, maybe you just want 2 cars in the driveway just to impress the neighbors. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You've got 2 fully paid cars sitting in your driveway at this present point in time. But now I want you to really think about this. In your bank, after buying 2 cars, you now have $91,473. $91,473 in your bank, 2 cars in the driveway. And in the 7th year, you had 67, which was 90%. Now you've got 91. That's $23,592 extra that you made. That's what that is. So not only did you get 2 cars, you got some extra money sitting in the bank to go do something else. I'd suggest maybe paying down some credit card debt or something like that. But do you see what just happened? Just by implying the secret here, just by doing what the banks do and mimicking that and using this whole life policy, the machine, the 800-pound gorilla, you literally just created a banking system that gave you back all the money for all the cars you ever bought, driven, or owned. Okay? That's how you do it right there. It's that simple, folks. But the one thing I do want to point out is this in the beginning, this didn't just happen, right? Money didn't just fall out of the sky. No, you had to capitalize your bank. And you know what? If you opened a bank, a true bank, you'd have to buy the land. You'd have to build the building. You'd have to pay for some staff to run the place. You'd have to spend some money on marketing, right? You'd have some upfront expenses. You'd have to capitalize your bank. Well, that's what you had to do. For 3 years, you had to capitalize your bank, $10,000 per year. And again, doesn't matter what the number is. This is just an example. I'm just trying to get you to start thinking about how money really works. And what you just saw there, that's how you get all the money back for all those cars and come out ahead. I didn't just get all your money back. Heck, you're out a positive in 12 years. Sell some cars and you got even more money. I'm literally speechless because every time I do this, it blows my freaking mind that my entire life, 41 years, and I've never been shown this, 41 years, and I've never known this, 41 years of knowing what whole life is. And well, not quite all those years, but knowing what whole life is. And I never knew how to do this ever. Now let's talk about some rules of engagement. So there are some really important rules that we need to follow to make this machine work. And these are simple rules, super easy rules. So rule number 1, pay yourself first. You've been trained to pay all your bills first and then take whatever's left over. That's what you've been trained your whole life. And then you put that leftover into your savings, right? That's the wrong way to think about money. You got to pay yourself first. And what that means is pay yourself first and then put money into save, or pay yourself first. Then that means putting money into your savings first and then paying your bills. Put money into your savings first and then pay your bills. It can work that way. You just don't think it can because you haven't been taught that. Second, and I think most important, pay yourself with interest. Darn it all. If you're going to pay the bank back with interest, well, when you take a loan out, why wouldn't you just be an honest banker with yourself? Why wouldn't you just pay yourself back with interest? You're paying the bank interest and you got no qualms with that. You just think that's just how it is. I got to pay the bank back and the bank's going to charge me interest. Sweet. That's just what they do. That's how they make money. You're the bank now, folks. You're the bank, so pay yourself back with interest. You can't recapture interest if you don't deposit it into your bank. Lastly, recycle and recapture. That's it. Wouldn't you agree that it's better to pay yourself interest than pay the bank interest? Wouldn't you agree that paying yourself interest feels better, looks better, just overall just has a better sound to it than paying the bank interest? And you get a lot more out of that interest, wouldn't you? Having that money to use, boy, that'd be great. If it works for a car, folks, what else does it work for? So I told you in this webinar, I was going to show you how to get all the money back for all the cars you ever buy, drive, and own. And I've done that. And I've got a bunch of you that have stuck with me this whole time. And I only lost one person when I said that about whole life insurance, one person. And you know what? That one person just makes it to the 95%er group. But do you guys want bonus round? You guys okay if I go into the bonus round? Because this is really exciting. We all live with debt, right? It's just kind of one of the things. I have debt. Most people have debt. Brent's out of debt now, but I'm getting there. I'm using my banking to get me out of debt, but I've only been doing the banking this way for a couple years. I only learned about this in 2015, folks. So I've been banking since 2015, and I'm not going to get too deep into all the things that it's done, but all I can tell you is I've done a lot of flips with banking money. I've done a ton of rentals using banking money. I have loaned a ton of money out to other real estate investors using my bank, my whole life banking policies. Now I'm looking to buy my next car using my banking system. We had some leases, so we had to wait for those leases to come up. But my next darn car, my bank's buying it. My bank, or Larissa's bank, actually bought her treadmill. See what I'm saying? So let's talk about some of the debts. Okay, this is a real life example. And if you guys have to go, I understand, but I'm just going to show you how this doctor, he's not a doctor, he's a chiropractor, but chiropractors are doctors. So I just want you to wrap your head around, he's a chiropractor. He's a true member of the Money Multiplier system. He's 45 years old. He has 9 third-party debts when we started with him. 9 third-party debtors totaling $478,774,000 in debt. I don't know. Does that sound like anyone you know? Any of you know somebody that sounds like this? You got a bunch of debtors. You got a house, a condo. You got a boat. You got that BMW, the private loan on something. You know, it's just, that's norm. So you got $478,000 in debt, and you got a total payment on all those debts. Your total monthly payment is $5,777 a month. That is $69,000. That was his scenario. That was his true scenario. Now, what I want you to see here is, okay, now let's see another example of how you can use your personal bank, how you can use your money multiplier banking system to recapture the interest that you pay in your day-to-day life, because that's what we're talking about, day-to-day life. We're now going to talk about what you're spending. His debt is $478,774, and his total monthly payments, $57. I already went over that, just reiterating the facts. If you were to pay off all this debt, okay, if you were to take $25,000 a year, and you were to pay off that $478,774 every year, forget about any more interest, how long would that take you? It would take you 19 years. I didn't let any of you pull the calculators out, but if you were to take $25,000 and you were to pay that debt down, it'd take you 19 years. Here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how we helped him pay off all of his debt while he was paying $25,000 per year away into his banking system for 7 years. And in a second, I'm going to tell you where the 25 grand came from, because I already told you we're going to focus on spending. Do you think that's possible? Do you think it's possible that we're going to pay all this debt off in 7 years? In 7 years, this chiropractor paid all this debt off using this strategy. Now, where did the 25 grand come from? That's a really important question, and I want to get that monkey out of the room right now, and I want to hit it head on. This doctor, when we met him, or when Brent met him, said to him, said, hey, look, doc, every day you have some walk-ins come in, right? All your bills and your overhead, he told us is paid out of his normal operations, his insurance billings and everything. But every day you got some stragglers that roll in here to get some adjustments, right? Yeah. And every single day you make an extra, whatever dollars that is, every single day on these walk-ins. And the doc said, yeah. And, do you need that money to operate? And the doctor said, no, that's just extra money. We just, whatever, the money just disappears. It goes into the black hole and it's gone, poof, gone. That takes it all up. And what we said is, okay, so if that 2 patients per day, could you just put that money away? Could you put that money in savings? Could you afford to take that money and not pay debt with it and put it in savings? The doc said, of course, that's not a problem at all. We can do that. So that's where the 25 grand came from. Okay. Your number might be different. This doctor's number was 25,000, and it wasn't our number. It was his number, because that's how much his walk-ins amounted to. So let's go through this. Let's show you how to get rid of this debt in 7 years. Year number 1, he deposits the $25,000 into his banking system, the thing I've been talking about this whole webinar. $25,000 gets deposited, and the first thing he does is, after he deposits the $25,000, he uses $14,863, which is roughly about 60% of the $25,000. How quick does he use this money? And this is what's going to blow you away. And I normally talk about this sooner. Within the first 30 days. When you set up this banking system with us and do it the right way, you will have access to the funds within 30 days. Not 3 months, not 6 months, 30 days. So this doctor pulls out $14,863. And here's what we're going to do. Using the cash value, we're going to take and we're going to pay off some debts. We're going to pay off Discover, Lowe's, and we're going to pay a little bit of Nordstrom down. That's going to reduce his debt down to $463,911. And instead of paying the $5,779 per month, what that's going to do is now his payment drops to $53.29, because we just got rid of the debt. But remember, we keep talking about being an honest banker. And if you're an honest banker, what are you going to do with that money you were paying to the banks? You're going to pay it to your bank. So that $448, what you're going to do is you're just going to put that into a segregated bank account. You're just going to create a new bank account, because it's fun to watch this grow. And you're going to put that money in that segregated bank account every month, just like you were paying those creditors, Discover, Lowe's, and Nordstrom. You're going to take that money, you're going to put that money in your segregated bank account. You're going to watch that money go up and up and up, because that's what being an honest banker is. Okay. I recommend that you put your new banker payments into that separate account. You can do it into your regular account, but remember, some people's regular accounts kind of like it's like the black hole. Money just disappears. So I want you to think about a segregated bank account, and that's how I'm going to illustrate this. Year number 2, and we're going to go quicker as we get through this, as you start seeing how this is going to work. Year number 2, Doc's going to make another $25,000 deposit. Now, he's going to immediately, within the first 30 days, pull out $16,571. But remember, I talked about those honest banker payments going into that segregated bank account? Well, those amounted up to $53.76. That's how much money he's got in that honest banker bank account. And that grew over the year. So he's got total cash at $21,945. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to pay down some debt. We're going to pay off Nordstrom. We're going to pay off Wells Fargo. We're going to knock down that private loan, and we're going to pay down some of that BMW, because why not? Let's own that BMW. Now his total debt drops to $378,013. So let's just say $378,000 for simple round math. And his new payment to his bank, or to the bank, the actual bank, his debtors, is now $3,860. But now he's going to recycle and recapture the money he was paying to those creditors, which is now $1,917 per month. Remember, we're not working any harder any longer. We're just taking the money that was already being spent, and we're just repositioning that money into your bank, your segregated bank account. All right, so now we're going to be putting $1,917 per month away. Remember, you're keeping your payments the same. All the payments remain. We never change the payments being made. You're either paying someone else or you're paying your bank. That's it. I just want you to see that. Year 3, keep doing the same thing. 25 grand. But whoa, hold on a second, guys. Look, you just put 25,000 in, and this is year 3. You put 25,000 into your bank, but now you have $25,541. Wait, I put 25 in, and within the first, right away, I have 25,541 available. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? Put money in, and I got more than I put in. All right, so off that little bandwagon, now what we're going to do is we're going to take those payments that we've been putting into our segregated bank account, $23,004 is what that's grown to now, plus the cash value in your banking policy. We're going to take that $48,545, and we're going to pay down some debt. That BMW paid off. Now you own the BMW. We pay that boat off. So boy, it's going to be a sweet ride this summer in the paid off boat. Awesome. We don't have to pay for those boats, but the gas is still going to kill you. And you pay off part of that condo. So now your total debt's been reduced to $283,146. Your payments to the banks, not your bank, the banks, has gone from $3,860 to $2,100. $3,860 to $2,100. Now your honest banker payment, the amount you were paying other people that you're now going to put into your segregated account, is $3,677. So that's how much money you're putting back into your bank. And it sounds so much better, man, when you're putting money into your bank and not into their bank. Their bank, they like that. That pays for their toys. That pays for their life. That pays for their legacy. Now you're going to put that money in your bank that you control. You're going to take control of that. Year 4, same thing. Here we go. 25 grand in. Now, first 25 grand in, we got access to 26,304. 26,000. We put 25 in. Now we got 26,000 available, plus all those banker payments. Those honest banker payments are 44,135 now. So we've got 70,439 to pay down some debt. So boom, let's pay down some of that condo. Let's get rid of that. Now what we've done is our new debt is 187,000, and our bank payments now 21,000. Our bank payment didn't change. You notice that? Because we only paid some of the money down on the condo. We didn't pay it off. So we didn't free up any money that was going to anybody else. Last time I checked, when you make a principal payment on your condo or your house, your payment doesn't change. So that's why the 21's there. Now, year 5, just like before, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take and we're going to put the 25 grand in, but now we got 27,000. You guys see this? Remember earlier with the car, I said, don't ever stop putting premium deposits in your policy. Why in the world would you ever stop putting money in? If you put 25 in and you instantly got 27, that's before the money grows. You got 25 in, 27 back. Yeah, I'm speechless, but that's why you keep putting money in. So back to it. So we've got premium to all of our honest banker payments are 71,225. Now, what did we do here? Our total debt. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to knock that down. We're going to use that 98,000 from our honest banker payments and the cash value. We're going to pay that condo off, and we're going to knock our house down a little bit. So now our monthly payment did change because we paid the condo off. So your debt's now $91,099. And now we're in year 5. $91,099, and your monthly payment that you're making to the banks is now $1,221. The payments going to your bank, your segregated bank account, are $4,556. And I'm telling you, folks, it feels so much better when your payments are going into your bank, and you can look at them every day. You can touch them, feel them, take them out, play with them, run it all over the bed. $98,000, lay it out on your bed, look at it, pack it back up, put it back in the segregated account. Hey, this is just fun talk, right? Okay, here we go. Year 6. This is our last year, but now we got to do a little something different. And this is going to take just a quick second for me to explain this. So this is the last year. and the policy that we initially set up, our original banking policy, is running out of steam. It's not going to run as efficiently as it was before. So what we've got to do now is what we're going to do actually is we're going to put 10,000 into that old banking policy, because we can no longer put 25,000 into that bank. Now, why? Why can't we just keep putting the 25K into that bank? Why not? Well, the IRS understands how these work, and they have some rules called the MEC rules. I'm not going to get into it, but the IRS doesn't allow you to put that much money into these plans longer than 7 years. So at this point, we've maxed out our policy, so it's not going to perform as efficient. We can put the 10 in, and if we put the 10 in, we get 13 back. Not so shabby, right? How many times could all of you find $10,000 if you give me 10,000 and I hand you back $13,092? How many times could you do that? A lot. Even if it's not your money, you could find ways to do that. But what we got to do now is we're going to max out that existing policy, but we're going to start a branch office. We're going to start another banking policy, our branch office. And if you think about it, every corner, right, there's always new banks opening up, new branch offices. That's what you're going to do. So you're going to deposit 25 grand into that branch office, that new bank. And out of that 25 grand you put in, we're going to repeat that cycle. So you can pull 14,863. Your total payments from your recapture, from your segregated bank account, your honest banker payments are now 82,633. So you got that 82,633. But what are we going to do with that total cash? We're going to pay the house off. We just totally paid off the house. We paid off all the debt in 6 years. And you can see if you do 145 minus 76, you got some money to spare. You've got two banks that are going to continue to keep operating, keep working all the same. You can keep making premium deposits in it and repeat this process. This amount is more than enough to pay off that house. All right, let's just go into one more thing. So how we help our members, that gentleman right there, here's what we create for our members. Our members that create infinite banking policies get a debt mapping specialist. So that seems like a lot of work tracking all that, doesn't it? What if you didn't have to track it? What if there's a system created to help you create your own mapping special, or your own map of your debts, of your goals, of whatever you want? We do all that for you. It's our debt mapping specialist. They create the debt map for you, and that debt map will be your map that allows you to do exactly what you just saw that chiropractor do. Now, the marathon, real quick, let's just recap what just happened there, because it was a lot of numbers. I'm even tired talking about it, so you guys must be like, too many numbers, too many numbers. So we summarized it. For 3 years, right? How much did we put in? We put in 25, 25, 25. We put 75 grand in over 3 years. And what did we take out in 3 years? 14, 16, 25. So we took out $55,000. Okay, so we put in 75. We took out 55. That means we have how much left? How much is left in there? 20? 75 minus 55. 20 grand left in that policy, correct? Wrong. Remember, I said this earlier and you probably forgot, but remember, we're not borrowing the money that we've put into the policy. Instead, the money that we have, that 75 grand we put in there, we're putting that up for collateral against the general fund of the life insurance company. So the total amount in your policy isn't 20 grand. The total amount in your policy is 75,000, and that 75,000, even though you took 55 of it out, that 75 grand is earning 4%. I don't know if any of you picked that up in the car example, but that's how this works, folks. How nice would it be is if you could go into your bank, withdraw your bank that's not paying you 4%, but let's just pretend your conventional bank is paying you 4%, and you took all of your money out of the bank, all that money that was earning 4%, you pull it all out. But then even though you took that money out, your money was still earning 4%. Wouldn't that be pretty sweet? Well, that's what this is, folks. That's why banks use this. That's why the wealthy use this, but that's not the only reasons. So I got to go to this one, the millionaire. This is it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You see, this doesn't happen overnight. I already talked about the marathon. You have to do this one bite at a time, a little bit at a time. The man on the top of the mountain didn't fall there. He climbed there. And is it possible to owe no man nothing? The machine works for debt and expenses, vacation homes and taxes. It works for everything, even if you have no debt. I hear that all the time. Chris, I don't have any debt. This won't work for me. Well, you have to pay taxes, right? Your kids or your people close to you need things, don't they? They've got to buy cars. They got to buy houses. Why don't you become their bank? Wouldn't that be sweet if you just became the bank and did exactly what I showed you the banks do and made 500% or even 20%? Who cares? And let's go back to that chiropractor, because this is really awesome. That chiropractor, right? Remember, he had a condo and he had a house. And let's just say you paid those two debts just like you are today, just like that doctor. He never met us, never met Brent, and he just continued to do that just like normal. The condo payment was $879. The house payment was $1,221, and there was 251 months left on the condo, 224 left on the house. So that's how much money would have been paid back to the banks. So you pay $493,967 back to the banks. You in turn get a house and a condo. So you now own the house, you own the condo. The bank got all the money, $493,000. Okay. Now, what if you used your bank? Okay. What if you used your banking policy that had a guaranteed growth rate of 4%, and you used your money and you left in the policy and you didn't give it to the bank? You just put that money, like I showed you, back in your policy. What would that look like? Well, remember, you're making 4% interest on that money. So at 4%, your condo and the money that you would have paid back for the condo would have earned $344. Your house, the money you would have paid to the bank, but now you paid to your bank, earning 4%, made $405. Folks, that's $749,611 that you just kept in your family, that you just kept in your banking policy. Plus you got a house and a condo fully paid for that you can go out and do home equity lines and all that fun stuff with that. But how sweet is that? The bank didn't get your money. You got your money because you became the bank, because you changed one thing in your life, and that one thing was everything. Now that you know this, now that you know what I just told you, it doesn't matter whether you make $10 an hour. It doesn't matter whether you make $100,000 or $10,000 an hour. You need to be doing this. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays, they all understood how to keep money in their families. And they also all understood how to keep money and keep money working for them. And everybody needs to break the bonds of financial slavery. That's what I just showed you how to do. You have to tell people about this. If you don't, you're stealing from your children and your grandchildren. So go out there and tell people about this. And if you can't, of course, maybe this is just too much, I'll give you the recording of this. By the way, we didn't even talk about this stuff, did we? We didn't even talk about the death benefit, but we did mention that there is one. So if you pass away or you graduate a little early, graduate not from school, but that's the common word that we use for dying. If you graduate too early, your beneficiaries are paid a death benefit tax-free, and they can continue to keep banking. Oh, and I did mention that those loans that were taken, all those loans that were taken to pay all that debt, to pay that car, to buy that house, that condo, they don't have to be repaid. They do not have to be repaid. So, why would you stop putting money in? Remember that example where you put 10 grand in and you get 13 back? That's why you would never stop putting money in. The internal values grow tax-free. Did we mention that? Nope. All that money I showed you, all that growth, all that money, it's all tax-free, folks. The policies are even exempt from judgments and liens in most states. New York not really being one of them, but almost every state, these things are protected from liabilities and judgments. That's why people in high risk things love this. That's why they love this. One of two things are going to happen to all of us. Okay. First off, we're going to live. You have to ask yourself, are you better off with or without this if you live? I think you can answer that. If you die, are you better off with or without this? You're certainly better off with this. I almost said without this. You're certainly better off with this. All right, we're getting to the very end, and I'm just going to wrap with this. This is a quote I often think about. My buddy Will Rogers, and here's what he says. He says, the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know. The problem is what people think they know that just ain't so. A lot of what you've been taught about money may not actually be the truth. I need you to keep an open mind, because in this webinar, I challenged you. I challenged you to think about how money really worked, and I need you to continue to stay challenged. And with that being said, if you have any questions, there's my contact information. That's my cell. That's my personal email. And I think Andrew's been doing a pretty good job of answering the questions here, but let me just take a quick gander here. Not too many questions. Let's see. Perfect. But if anyone has any questions right now, please type them in. We'll give it a few minutes to answer any questions. And actually, you know what I'll do? I'll unmute everybody so you guys can talk. Let's see. Or actually, I gave you all the ability to unmute yourself. So if you have a question, just go up and unmute yourself. And let's see. So how do you start? Yeah, that's actually a pretty common question. So how do you start? Well, Again, it all starts with a phone call. So what we would do is we would set up a call with you to answer any further questions you have. And then we can talk about your situation, your goals, whatever you want this to do for you. And then we can help get you started in your banking system. So that's how it starts. So if anyone is interested in getting started, the red pill has been served. I love that. And that's not the first time we've heard that. So if anyone has interest, just basically send us a message right now or send me an email at contact@chrisnaugle.com. What we'll do is we'll set up a call and then we'll go into it with you. And again, like I said, this isn't a thing that's designed to sell anything, but if you like what you saw, please give us your name, your number, and we will contact you, and we'll certainly go into how you can get your banking system started. So the red pill, as Andrew was saying. One thing I want to do is I want to thank each and every single one of you for joining me. This is the first time we've done it this way. This is the very first time, and I keep doing these first, and I love it because you know what? I surround myself with really successful people. It's something I do, and those really, really successful people I surround myself all have one common thing, and here's what it is. They are ultra wealthy. I was with billionaires last week in Wyoming, and every single one of them, the only thing they cared about is helping other people achieve what those people want, not what they want, helping other people achieve what they want. And in turn, if you help others achieve what they want, they in turn will help you achieve what you want. So let's see. Quick question. Go ahead, Chris. Let's see. Where are you? Let me unmute you, Chris. You can just ask your question. All right. It should work.
You're Kristen.
Hold on. I know. I'm going to talk to the man. Hey,
Sorry.
Chris.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Hey, great to see you. And thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been a wonderful presentation.
Oh, thank you.
So much value. I just had a quick question. With all of this, how do you get compensated? I know you have MERs. And
Chris, that's a freaking great question, and I'm glad you asked it. I usually talk about it, but at the end of these things, you get a little tired. So here's how we get compensated on this. So let's say you wanted to get started with your banking policy. We get paid no different than your Allstate agent does, or no different than your Geico agent. We get paid a commission from the insurance company. But here's the deal. We get paid a commission that is equivalent to 60% less than every other life insurance rep out there that would do this, or any other financial advisor. Because when we build these policies, we build them for maximum efficiency, right to the MEC limits. Not to get technical, but the IRS allows so much money to be plowed into these things before it becomes taxable. And we build them right to that. And in doing that, that means that 60% of all the money you put into your banking system goes right into what we call paid up additions, or into the cash value, starts earning interest instantly. If you've ever bought life insurance before, it doesn't work that way. 100% goes into what they call the base, and the base is what gives you the death benefit, and that life insurance rep or that insurance agent gets paid a full commission on the full deposit. So the reason a lot of people don't hear about this, and the reason a lot of advisors or life insurance reps don't talk about this, is they would literally have to take a 60% cut in pay to do this the proper way. So that's how we're paid. We're paid a commission. You don't pay us, and that banking or that mapping specialist, the whole banking system that we've created on the back end, we don't charge for that.
That's amazing. Now, one other quick question, if I may. Here in Canada, we are allowed to draw 90% against our cash value. Is that differ from the U.S.?
No, it's very different. It's very different. So here in the U.S., you can actually take 100%. Remember that one example where you put 25 in and you got 26 back? You can take 100%. Right. They require zero extra to be in there. You can take every penny of it every year.
Thanks again, Chris. I've got to run. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the value tonight.
Thanks, Chris. You're very, very welcome.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
You work with?
All right. So do we have any other questions for anybody? I can unmute everybody if they want, and they can ask anything they want. All right. Great. So I think that's probably about a wrap. I don't want to waste any more time, but as Andrew said, the red pill has been served. So if any of you have any interest in this, just reach out to us, send us a private message, send us an email, and we'll gladly help you out and answer any further questions. So with that being said, thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you so much for investing time to learn something new and to learn what the wealthy are doing and what the banks are doing so you can change your life. We'll talk to you all soon. Have a good night.